Hello everyone and welcome to AI Sciences. I'm your instructor Shahriyar, and today we are going to learn about Amazon Aurora, which is another service within AWS. So what is Aurora? Aurora is a proprietary technology from AWS. That means it is not open sourced, and it is compatible with both Postgres and MySQL, which are used for the database. Aurora is AWS cloud optimized since everything on AWS is stored within the cloud. So yeah, Aurora is also AWS cloud optimized, and it claims five times performance improvement over MySQL on RDS and over 3 times performance of Postgres on RDS. Now, if you do not know what is RDS, RDS is another service within AWS which is used to create a database. So Aurora storage automatically grows in increments of 10 gigabytes up to 128 terabytes, and this feature is also known as the auto expanding or auto scaling. And Aurora, it can have 15 replicas while MySQL has 5, and the replication process is faster within Aurora. And by replicas, it means that you can create a clone of your database, right? And the failover in Aurora is instantaneous. It's high availability native. So Aurora costs more than RDS, like 20% more, but it is more efficient. Aurora works with your data in such a way that it creates 6 copies of your data across 3 availability zones, okay? And among these copies, 4 copies out of 6, they are needed for the writes. That means if 2 of the copies are down, doesn't matter, you still have 4 copies which are required for the writes. And then you have 3 copies out of 6 needed for the reads. That means if 3 of the copies are down, doesn't matter, you still have 3 copies which are needed for the reads. And then we have this feature within Aurora which is known as self-healing with peer-to-peer replication. It means that if the data is broken or it's corrupted or something like that, then it will self-heal by itself. This is a good feature of Aurora with peer-to-peer replication. Now, storage in Aurora, it is striped across hundreds of volumes, and it's a backend feature of Aurora. You do not have to manage it yourself, but it's for safety purpose. Like it is stored across hundreds of volumes. One Aurora instance takes the writes. Okay, we have one Aurora instance which is used for the writing purposes, and it is known as master. And then we have this automated failover for master in less than 30 seconds. That means if a failover happens to the master, it will revive within 30 seconds. Okay, it will keep on trying and it will revive in 30 seconds. Now we have one master which is used for the writing purposes, and then we have up to 15 Aurora read replicas which serve the reads. Right, we can have 1 read replica, 2, 3, or anything more than that, but up to 15. And Aurora has a support for the cross region replication. Now, if you have a glance at this, you may see that we have 3 availability zones over here: AZ1, AZ2, and AZ3. And over here we have this master. As said, over here we have 1 master plus up to 15 read replicas. Here we have like 5 read replicas. So master is used for the writing purposes, and read replicas, they are used for the reading purposes. And we have a shared storage volume. That means we have replication over here, we have the self-healing, and we have the auto expanding, which basically expands your storage to any gigabyte or terabyte form. So if you have a glance over here at these boxes, you may see that let's have a look at these dark blue colors. We have 2 dark blue color boxes, and then again 2 over here, and then again 2 over here. So that means it is creating 6 copies of your data, right? And then same is the case with the gray one. If you see that we have 2 over here, 2 over here, and then 2 over here. Same is the case with green. We have 2 over here, 2 over here. So basically the purpose behind telling you this is that it is creating 6 copies of your data, and a replication is happening, right? So let's move forward. Talking about the Aurora database cluster, we have this master over here, and then we have these read replicas over here, which I told you before, but we didn't talk about the auto scaling. I did not tell you about it. So auto scaling is the feature where your data expands automatically, right? Like if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 read replicas, and somehow you need to expand, you need to have more read replicas. So in that case, you do not have to do it manually. Aurora would do it automatically for you. That is why it is called auto scaling, right? And it's a shared storage volume. Like auto expanding happens from 10 gigabytes to 128 terabytes. Now with the master, we have an endpoint connected, which is known as the writer endpoint, and it is pointing to the master, right? And we have a client which conveys the message to the writer endpoint, and then it points to the master. Now, in case we do know that there is something called failover. If failover happens within the master, what will happen? Doesn't matter, because the client, it will anyway convey the message to the writer endpoint, and the endpoint pointing to the master, it will wait for the master to revive. The failover happens within 30 seconds, as I told you before. So after it has been revived, the message will still be conveyed to the master, and then it will write. Now, same is the case with our read replicas. We have something called reader endpoint connected to it, and it is used for the connection load balancing. Like, we do not know from where it is supposed to read, so it is connected to all your read replicas. And even after the auto scaling, if you have more read replicas, they will connect to the reader endpoint. So it's a cool feature of Aurora. And then what's happening is that this reader endpoint, it is conveying the reading transfers to the client, right? The client reads it from over here because of this connection load balancing, and then it conveys the message to the writer endpoint, and then the master writes it. So you got my point, right? Now, talking about the features of Aurora, we have this automatic failover, which we discussed before. We have the backup and recovery, which is basically, most of the features. We have the backtracking and so on, so you can just back up the data, and then in case of disaster recovery, you can recover your data, right? And then we have the isolation and security. We have security groups. We have industry compliance. We have the push button scaling, automatic patching with zero downtime, and advanced monitoring, which is used for the performance metrics. We have the routine maintenance, which can be used for the minor upgrading. And then we have this feature which I like the most, backtrack. That means you can restore the data to any point of time without using backups. So with this feature, you do not have to create any backup to restore the data. Like, you want to move, like, let's say 1 day ago or 10 minutes ago, you want to restore your data from that, you can do that with this feature, backtrack. And then we have Aurora Security. It is very similar to RDS. And once again, if you do not know what is RDS, RDS is a service within AWS which is used to create a database. So it is similar to RDS because it uses the same engines for the database. And then we have this encryption at rest using KMS. In KMS we get a key for the data. Like, we cannot access it without that key. And then we have the automated backups, the snapshots and replicas. They are also encrypted. And then we have this encryption in flight using SSL. You can enable or disable it. It's up to you. And the possibility to authenticate using IAM token. So same method. It is same method as RDS. And in Aurora, you are responsible for protecting the instance with security groups. So we got to know enough about the Aurora Security. Let's have our hands on with it. So yeah, over here I am, and this is my AWS dashboard. So we were talking about Aurora. So you just have to keep in mind that Aurora is accessed from the RDS because it is related to database, and RDS is used to create a database. So we will go to RDS. If you cannot see it over here, if you have not recently visited it, just go over here and write RDS, and over here we are. So let's go to RDS. I don't know why internet is slow today, but it doesn't matter. We are learning anyway. So yeah, over here we are, and you can see I have some instances already within my RDS database. I'm going to database, and then I'm going to create a database. Now over here we are. So let's get started. We have these options over here, and we are going to get through all these. So it says that choose a database creation method. Either you want it to be standard or you want it to be easy create. If you choose easy create, it will use a recommended best practice and it will configure everything for you. But we do not want that, because we want to do everything manually. So I'm going to go to standard create. All right. Now in this standard create, you can set all of the configuration options, including ones for availability, security, backups, and maintenance. So if you talk about the engine options, we have this MySQL over here as well, MariaDB, PostgreSQL, Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server. but we desire to go with the Amazon Aurora. Now keep in mind that Amazon Aurora, it is not a free tier. If you talk about MySQL, it's compatible free tier, but we want to go with Amazon Aurora. So yeah, and we have these two editions. As I told you, it is compatible with MySQL as well as PostgreSQL. So we are going to choose the MySQL. It's the basic one and the recommended one. And if we talk about the replication features, so we have this single master over here and we have this multi-master over here. It means that in single master we will have one writer and multiple readers, right? And in multi-master we will have multiple writers and multiple readers. It is as simple as that. So we just need to have a glance at the options. I'm going to go with the basic ones. And yeah, we have the engine version info. If you want to know more about this Amazon Aurora, you can read it over here. If it's a global database and so on. So if we move further, we have the Aurora MySQL, and I'm gonna choose this recommended version, the most recent one. All right. Now, if we go to show filters, since we do want to know about every option, if we go to show filters, we have this show version that support serverless. Now, in serverless, it is basically meaning that you cannot predict the workloads. You do not know how much workload your application is going to have. So in that case, you choose the show version that supports serverless, and it will choose that version for you. And same is the case over here with these two options: the version that support the parallel query feature, which is used for the improvement of performance of analytical queries, and then the global database features, which is used globally, which selects the engines which are used globally. So let's move forward. Now we have the templates. We are supposed to choose a template. Either we want it for production or development or testing. Production, it is used for high availability and fast consistent performance, while development or testing, it is intended for development use outside of a production environment. So since I will consider myself as not a developer, or I'm not testing anything, I'm producing, I'm using it for the production purposes, so I'm going to choose this one. Now we have this identifier where we can choose a name. I'm going to keep it default, and then we can have a master username and a password. I'm going to set a password over here, and obviously I'm not going to auto generate a password because it's a difficult one, and I don't have enough time to write it down, so I prefer to memorize the password I write. Now let's move forward. We have the instance configuration. Either we want it to have a memory optimized class or burstable class, which is a very simple class and uses the small amount of data. So memory optimized, it is used for the improvement of memory. If you do not know what it is, it will show you the information over here. So I'm going to choose burstable class because it's cheaper, and we do not intend to spend much money or overpay. So yeah, and I'm going to choose the smallest family. So for that, I'm going to choose include previous generation class, since it's a new interface of Amazon Web Service, but it allows you to use the previous ones as well. So over here we have this db.t2 small, which uses only 1 vCPU and 2 gigabytes of RAM. Alright, I'm good with that, since we are just using it for testing purposes. Then we have this multi-AZ deployment. Either we want to create an Aurora replica, or we prefer not to create an Aurora replica. So in that case, what happens, I did tell you about the replica. Replica, basically, it's like a clone of your database. I'm not going to create it for now. Alright, so let's move forward. I'm going to use the default VPC for the connectivity, and the subnet group, it's going to be default public access. Yes, okay, I can access it from the computer, and if I set it to no, I can access it from only this device VPC. And then moving forward, we have the VPC security group. I'm going to choose a default, or you can create a new one from over here, enter the name and anything you want, but I'm going to choose the default, the existing one. And this port over here, now you may see that this port over here is 3306. Now I want to show you one thing, that if you move upward, and we have this MySQL, and I'm going to go back over here, and you may see that this is the same port, 3306. Why is the port same? Because it's the standard port for MySQL, And since Amazon Aurora is also compatible with MySQL, so it uses the same port. So yeah, we have the same port over here. But if we choose anything else, like if I choose MariaDB, it may have a different port, right? Let me show you. Okay, it has the same one. What's up with this? Yeah, so you see it has a different one. So I'm gonna go back to my Amazon Aurora and we have everything set up. Now you want it you want the database authentication over here. You want it to be password authenticated or password and IAM database. I'm gonna keep it simple. And then if we go to additional configuration, we have these database options. I can set anything like my Aurora database, and I'm gonna keep the parameters default. Failover priority, no preference. Backup retention, you can set it to anything like 1 or 10 or up to 35, right? And encryption, enable encryption if either you want a master key and an alias for that, but I don't want any encryption in it, so I'm gonna disable it. I don't want any. You may have noticed that if you disable it, this thing over here, it disappears because it won't ask you for KMS key anymore. But if you enable it, you have this KMS key. So I'm gonna keep it disabled. And I want this backtracking because it's a good feature. You can restore to any point, any time span, and you can set the hours over here. So monitoring, this is used for the enhanced monitoring for the performance matrices to see your threads or that uses the CPU. And then we have the log export, which is basically a good option, especially for the developers. You get to see if there is an error. If the error occurs, you will get to see the details of it. Like if I enable it, you will get to see the time the error occurred, the error code, and all that. And so we have these different logs. And moving forward, we have this maintenance, which is used for minor version upgrade. And if you want to choose anything over here, like I'm going to keep it no preference. And then we have this deletion protection, which means that if you accidentally delete your database, it will ask you, it will prompt you if you really want to delete it or not. So we are going to delete it anyway, so I'm going to disable it. But make sure that you enable it. Like if you are not using it for testing purposes, and if you actually want your database to deploy it, then do enable it. It's a good feature and it's a good safety purpose. So let's create the database now. We are done with everything. Alright, so I'm not gonna save it. So over here we are, and as you may see that it is creating. Now as you may see over here, we have this database over here, which is our regional cluster, and we are using this engine Aurora MySQL. And as I told you, we have one master and we have multiple readers, so it is also creating a reader. So the thing is that since it's a real-time video, it may take a lot of minutes. Like it can take 10 to 20 minutes. It depends upon your internet connection and your device. So the thing is, I want to show you the details for that. If you click on that, so you may see over here that we have these two. We have this writer instance with the port 3306 because it's compatible with MySQL, and the reader instance again with the same port because it is compatible with MySQL. And if you want to know, like according to the exam question, if you want to know how to identify if it's a reader or not, so you may see this RO over here. If you see this RO after the cluster, it means that it's a reader instance. Alright, and you can select the IAM roles to add to this cluster. You can share this with other AWS accounts, and the proxies you can add that as well. So let's play with it. I'm gonna go back just a minute, and over here if you may see that we have this one available, one instance, and this one is still being created. So if you go back over here again, you may see that if we go to configuration, we have all the details of it: the engine version, the resource ID, and the capacity type, the availability, the encryption, the master password, and all that. So yeah, that's how we create the Amazon Aurora database. And if you go back, you have to click multiple times. So you can, modify it. You just have to click on it, and then I'm gonna go to modify, and over here you can see that you can edit your database. So if you want it to be fully functional, you can also, go downwards, and you can add the policy as well, the maintenance and everything. So yeah, that's what I wanted to show you, and that's all. So just make sure that once you have created it and tested it, make sure you go to actions, you stop it, or you just stop it just a minute. So it will not stop for now, but once it is created, you just make sure that you delete it. So this one has not been created yet, so I hope it will be deleted. Yes, it can. So to confirm the deletion, it says that delete me, type delete me. Yeah, I'm gonna type that, and once it is created, it will delete automatically. And same is the case with this one. Just go to action, stop it, and then delete it. So yeah, that's how you work with the Amazon Aurora database, and that was all about it. If you learned something out of it, do like the video and do subscribe to our channel, AI Sciences. I hope to see you guys soon. Until then, have a good day.